All right, here we go. You guys are going to have to put up with a whole bunch of random B-roll that I have on my laptop. Nothing's planned, really. Just random stuff. I'm sure you've seen a lot of it before. I was in a full-on blizzard today. I'll post up and share with you what the aftermath looked like with that. Holy cow. Blizzard. Blizzard. Everything's on lockdown, hiding under trees and the bushes. But anyway, I shared with you to show you what I was been up against the past few days. Though I mean, this blizzard's been a bit of a blessing. Tomorrow, hopefully, the snow will stop by morning. Then tomorrow will probably be the best day I've had yet this whole trip. But have a listen to these deer walking in front of my trail camera and listen to how loud their little 3-inch feet are. And so you know what I've been up against, trying to sneak around in that thick, nasty forest, trying to get up on one of these big guys. If they're that loud, you imagine how loud I've been. It's been really frustrating. But whatever. Life's not easy, right? Life's not easy. It's funny. I was thinking about that today. I think about a lot of stuff when I'm by myself, obviously, for days on end, all day long in the real world. And we're walking along today, looking at the snow and looking at the trees and the timber and looking at all the sights and the feeling of exhaustion. And I was thinking to myself, man, how could this even be real? How can all of this even be real? How can we even be experiencing this? It's so bizarre. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so bizarre. Life is so bizarre. The more we see, the more we learn, the more we hear, the more we share. This lifetime is just so wild. Wild. But anyway, especially these days, I had a little bit of a laugh moment with myself. As I guess what started that earlier, I was listening to a podcast with Adam Carolla on it. He had a lot of different views on life and where he was and where he came from and where he got to and how he got there, and talking about his kids and being a dad and life in general. And I had a thought today, because life is not easy, right, you guys? Life is not easy. And if it is easy, apparently it causes depression if you got it handed to you on a platter more than it doesn't. But anyway, I kind of was walking along today and I realized, well, I guess it kind of makes sense that we're born crying, right? There must be something else going on before we get here and something else going on after we're done here that makes us come here and start the first thing we do is bawl our eyes out. No, I don't deserve this. Because we sure don't come out giggling, right? None of us come out giggling. Now, why is that? You ever thought about that? Why is it that we do not, when we're born, we don't come out giggling? I'll bet you we're going to find out at the end of this lifetime, right? Why don't we come out giggling? Anyway, let's hear from some of the good, honest people in the world, shall we? Generously sharing their experiences, their knowledge, no matter how crazy it may seem, and being brave and coming forward. This is titled Sasquatch Encounters, the Power of Projection. Hello, thank you for this opportunity to tell my story. I appreciate the effort that you have given and continue to give on this life-altering subject. Thank you for what you stand for and your no bullshit stance. The ability to hear other people tell of their encounters is so important. Because of my current position, I am not at liberty for you to disclose my full name. Just call me Pete. Okay, Pete, I gotcha. I'm 64 years old and Aboriginal. My mother was Manitoba Salto Cree. I grew up in southeastern BC in the East Kootenays and have hunted and fished since I could hold a rod and then a rifle. I spent most of my life in the bush year-round, not just hunting season. Paying attention, herd movements, relative to any season, shed hunting, and looking for winter kill in the spring of the year and watching to my dismay the decimation of ungulates by wolves. Listening to a bunch of, quote, grant-slurping hippies, end quote, tell me about the benefits of a non-regulated wolf populations. The mule deer population seemed to have taken the hardest hit first. I couldn't believe how quickly the mule deer numbers tumbled. Anyway, I've hunted and fished in every drainage within 100 miles of my hometown and a number of areas throughout North America. I literally have thousands of days and hundreds of nights in the Rocky Mountains. Like all serious hunters, we've had our moments with predators. I've been through 2 ugly grizzly encounters and 1 cat up to no good that I had to shoot while elk hunting. Each instance scared the living crap out of me. Each one was over so fast that when it was over, you had to relive and rethink it. For me, each instance created an adrenaline shake through my entire body. It is important to state this, to put what I'm about to say into perspective. The difference between the effects of a bad predator encounter and what I believe is a Sasquatch presence. On to Sasquatch encounters. I have had encounters, yet never seen one. The encounters are in 3 different locations. I won't go into great detail of each encounter, just enough to give this setting and what took place. What I want to share is the ability of these beings to project feelings into you. The first is an area that had low ridge at about 4,000 feet at an old log landing. You could see across the logged off area for about 200 yards in a 180-degree arc. At the edge of the clearing, a fairly mature spruce forest stood erect. What we would call the black timber. Great place for elk. We went back to this area 5 times over the course of an elk season to bugle or cow call elk. We were successful with 1, sometimes 3 different bulls responding. Every time within one or two responding bugles, there would be a loud whack, like a baseball bat hitting a dead snag. You could tell that the noise of the loud whacks was between us and the elk. Then the knocking would continue, from 2 to 3 different locations within the tall black timber. The bulls would immediately become silent. After a number of these whacks, this would stop. This was before I ever heard anything about tree knocking. Twice my partner and I crossed into the black timber and found nothing but moss and trees. What we did find was that the moment we went into the big timber, we were both overcome with a sense of being watched. We were about 150 yards apart. The further we went in, the worse it got. It changed from being watched to, quote, to leave, end quote. It was not a sense of intense fear or death, but that of a danger with a clear feeling of leave. It was overwhelming. We both felt the same way. I knew that we did because our distance apart was rapidly closing. When we were a few yards apart, and I looked at my partner's face, no words needed to be said. We were not panicked or ready to run, but an intense, urgent feeling to leave. I looked at him and nodded. He motioned with his hand to the direction of the landing. We pulled back. There was a strangeness about it, a heaviness, like we were retreating. That's what the best word is to describe it. When we talked about this back at the landing, we knew then, as we do now, the words to describe the overpowering feeling are difficult to find. The second encounter was in a creek bottom, about an hour after dark in late September. We had built a good fire at our camp that was about 15 yards from a creek. 5 of us were sitting around talking of the day's hunt. And it was our last night, and we were having a few road pops with a few crude jokes and laughing. There was a momentary lull in our antics when directly across the creek from us, a loud, and I mean loud shriek/scream let go. It was so close, too close. Nobody moved or said anything. Nobody had ever heard anything like it. Everyone looked at each other like, does anybody have any idea as to what the F that was? The feeling was not like the tree whack area. This seemed angry. It was strange that it was only talked about for a few brief moments, then avoided. It was amazing to see 5 grown men quickly grab the rifles, chamber around without a word, and stare into the darkness. No one wanting to show fear, all good seasoned hunters. The evening didn't last too much longer. First thing in the morning, after a poor sleep, we all pulled out, and there was no day hunt. No one wanted to hunt there. You see, it wasn't just the scream, it was the intense feeling of fear that accompanied the scream. The third encounter was about 100 yards from a thick creek bottom. Again with my lifelong hunting partner. Again during elk season. It had been a fairly warm day, and we were confident that the elk we were after would be in the cool creek bottom. It was early evening, and there was a low, round ridge between us and the creek, just enough to give us cover from prying eyes. Because we were so close to the creek, I turned 180 degrees from the creek, and bugled in the opposite direction. Immediately, and I mean immediately, at the end of my bugle from the creek bottom came a long, bellowing roar, like nothing I or he had ever heard. There was such ferocity and strength in the roar that it overwhelmed us. You could feel it inside your body. And this was more than angry. This struck such a deep fear. I don't like to admit it, but I have only been afraid a few times in my life, but never have I ever felt anything like this. I threw up my .338 and told myself, get ready. My partner threw up his rifle and we waited, safeties off. Both of us struggling with the thought of what the hell was that, and trying to shake the fear off. Then there was a loud crash of something, then nothing, just silence. Now I'm a confident person, and I have confidence in my rifle, but not that day. I've taken an 8'2" grizzly and many elk with that rifle, but I knew inside that it would not be adequate for whatever that was just 100 yards away. No way, no kidding, a .338. Shit, that's crazy. What I find important about these 3 events is that in each circumstance there is a deep feeling inside with each encounter, a feeling that has never left me. For all of us, when we encounter something, anything of magnitude, we enjoy sharing the event. Not so when it comes to this. It is like when you have met something that has outclassed you, or is superior to you. You've been put in your place, outmatched. Also, you are not acceptable to the space of their presence. You tend to become quiet or humbled by the experience. So when you brave to tell your story and some asshole mocks you, it hits in a different way. Nobody boasts of any encounter. It is a sobering event. When I listen to the stories from hunters, it's not the glittering high five for an awesome bull or massive buck, but the story of, quote, I've seen something that scared the hell out of me, humbled me, and got inside of me, end quote. It is not the elusiveness, size, or strength of the being that is worrisome and impressive. That it is to be respected, but their ability to project into your very soul. This, I believe, is the point. It is not what you've seen or heard that affects you so much, but how it got inside of you. It cannot be explained properly. Only when you speak with someone who has had an experience can it be understood. I never want to see one or feel their presence again. In closing, I've tried to go back and hunt these 3 areas. It doesn't work. When I grabbed my kit and rifle, and when I did try to go back into these areas, I didn't make it too far, and I would turn around as the intense feeling came back. I have no problem going to where I had the grizzly challenges or my cougar problem in hunting, but not in the above-mentioned areas. For me, these areas are taboo, not so much from what happened, but what took place inside of me. I'll never hunt these areas again. P.S. Thank you. I was able to get this out of me. The stories I have watched on your YouTube site have allowed me to open up. These incidents took place over the course of my hunting life. I have tried a few times to bring the subject up to a few individuals. The result was the start of instant mockery. Since then, I've never discussed this with anyone, not even my own children. I have now spoken to them about this. Your platform has made this possible for me to open up. And again, thank you. For the bastards that try to give you a hard time, I like the way you tell them to piss off. I hope this didn't become a short novel. Thoughts on some of your videos. Number one, you mentioned that you have been questioned as to why bow hunters tend to have more encounters than anyone else. As a bow hunter, we hunt in different terrain. If we can see 50 yards, we're happy. So we tend to be in the thicker shit. Our kills are closer, much like any predator, so we tend to run into other predators up close and personal. Rifle hunting, we tend to be in a more open country, and we're the only animal that can long range kill. To take advantage of this, as rifle hunters, we are in areas more easily spotted or seen. And number two, I was keenly involved in martial arts for a number of years. One of the instructors I spent time with was a South Korean who was former instructor with their special forces. We talked a lot about the projection of thought. I have applied this to hunting. He would say that in order to take out a sentry or guard, when you spot them from a distance, never look directly at them. Look at the branch above their head or the ground at beneath their feet. If you look directly at them, regardless of the time of day or night, their subconscious will automatically become more aware. Your thoughts have been projected. It works great on animals as well. Maybe this is what these beings can do at a far greater level than us. Tree knocking and hitting two sticks together. When I was a little kid, maybe 10 years old, I was playing at my grandmother's house. She was Cree. I was banging two sticks together. She stopped me and told me to come and listen. She said that this is very dangerous. It can scare off danger, but it can bring the beast of the forest. So never do that unless you have to. Because the hairy beast will come and get you, and will never see you again. I've seen your YouTube of the people who said that the beings were banging sticks together outside their tent, and it made me think of my grandmother's warning. Also, my grandmother's people know and accept that the beings exist. They are known to my people as Chayanka, or sometimes Witiko. And email, that's an oldie. That's an oldie. That's a good one to share, especially with the newbies here. A 338 rifle is like, that could kill an elephant. For reals. People do hunt elephants. When people go elephant hunting, it's a minimum caliber for elephants, and he didn't feel confident with his rifle. Yowza. Yowza. Oops, hold on a minute. All right. Fresh out of the pan. This next email is titled, I Goofed. Was sent to Drafts, the Ogre. All right. Odd title. Number one. My clan moved to Iowa from what is now W/Virginia. That'll be West Virginia. In the 1840s to escape the Melungian stigma. The English and Germanians are the vilest crap on the planet and deserve the karma they're getting now. Number two. Excuse me. A catter is a 4-foot, 3-foot tall cat with a 4-foot tail. In common talk, it's called a cougar or panther. Number three, the lady in white is the clan member that is sent to bring the soul/energy field of every clan member that dies in any way, sickness, or in battle. Number four, when I was 6, I died from ether from a tonsillitis operation. She floated through the hospital wall, took my hand, and I flew with her to our clan castle. Of course, your energy field goes right through the so-called solid objects. Number four, what you call your gut feelings is one form of telepathy. I have a different form, a form that draws scorn, disbelief, and murder, at least in the recent past. Instant knowing in words that makes people that have been separated from their own self mad. They now make fun of us, calling names. They used to murder us for being us. Number five, a better description of the big guy. At least 12 foot tall, at least 4 foot shoulders, 20 to 22 inch feet, incredibly fast. Did not have a cone head, had no neck. Head seemed to sit on his shoulders. Dark brown or black, 4-inch to 6-inch hair, did not stink, looked more human than anything, just more than twice as big. Our minds were beating and absolutely no threat to me. What? Our minds were beating and absolutely no threat to me or my best friend on the whole wide riverbank. If I've left out anything or you need to know anything else, just ask. Yours truly. RJ Jim by God Grub. Okay, Jim, odd laid out email. But I'm going to ask questions for number 5. Where did you see this being? Tell us the story. Share with us how it went down. Yeah, right? Share us the story of this being you described. I'm sure you're still here. This is a recent email, and that would be great. Please. Interesting. I hope you're right back. Here's another one fresh out of the pan. This is titled Wendigo in Central Kansas. Hi, Steve. So far, this is a second-hand story. I hope to get more information. I told of my brother seeing Dogman going 50 miles per hour running beside his van. That sounds familiar. I remember that. But anyway, I was at my wound care specialist getting the dressing changed, and the nurse asked me what a Wendigo was. I asked why the question. A couple on the way to their appointment to the wound care said they had a Wendigo. I can only hope that they had a car with cameras to... What? A couple on the way to their appointment to the wound care said they had a Wendigo. I think he meant Wendigo sighting, I'm guessing. I can only hope they had a car with a camera to get the pictures of a Wendigo. That would be amazing. I plan on getting more information about the Wendigo. I'm going to have the nurse give him my phone number to get the full story of them heading the Wendigo. I go to wound care twice a week, and I pray that everyone would pray for my foot. When I get more information from the couple on the Wendigo, I'll relate back to you. Thank you, and I hope everything goes well. Your friend, Steve. Okay, man. I hope everything goes well with your foot. I don't know what happened to it, but that's a little bit of an odd email, too. Don't you think? Yeah, keep us updated on what went down with the Wendigo and what they believe a Wendigo is. All right, we got another one here, fresh out of the pan, titled Almost Died. My story is about hitting rock bottom and finding my way back. Oh, how long is this? Not too long. This could be some valuable encouragement for someone. For 15 years, I was trapped in heavy addiction. 3 years ago, everything fell apart. I was withdrawing, lost in guilt and chaos, and in just 1 year, I stole over $100,000. Holy, that's almost like qualifying to be a politician when you get to that number. The weight of it all became too much. I reached a breaking point. I took a knife and slit my wrist. Yowza. Ouch. As I started to bleed out, I went to the backyard and sat down watching the blood drip, feeling myself get cold. I sat there for about 2 minutes and something inside me told me to go back inside. And at that exact moment, my dad came home from work. He saw me bleeding and screamed for my brother, whose flight had been canceled that night. Together, they managed to stop the bleeding and rushed me to the hospital. I had surgery to close my wrist, and somehow I survived. That was the darkest point of my life. Man, I can only imagine. But after that day, my brother got me into rehab. I've now been clean for 3 years. That's awesome. That moment changed me. I started to believe in God again. Because something happened that day that shouldn't have. I should have died, but I didn't. Now I'm starting my own business, rebuilding my life, and learning to enjoy it for what it is. And as men, we often feel like we can't talk about what's going on inside, so we take the easy way out. But I want people to know recovery is possible. I never thought I could do it. But with faith, family, and real support, you can turn your life around. If my story helps even one person dealing with addiction, then it's worth sharing. End of email. Appreciate that, man. Congrats. You're a tough dude. Keep going. Keep going. Live this life out to the max. And that's a great message for all the people out there listening. Not just men, but women. Anyone, right? Everyone. Appreciate that. Good for you. Good for you. Now, excuse me. Next, you know what? Side note, I know firsthand so many people and successful people, some professional athletes, some real kick-ass people who all had drug addiction, and it all came from being prescribed painkillers in the hospital. That's how it started. It's such a common thing. It's amazing. Sad. Frustrating. Anyways, that just came to mind. Quick thought to blurt out there. All right, this next email is titled Washita Mountains Encounter. Look at that. I finally pronounced that one correctly. Washita Mountains, not Uchita. Oh, you got to see the humor in some of my mess ups, right? Hey, Steve, thanks for your channel and all you've done for the people. It means more to us than you'd ever understand. Well, anyways, here's my story. You're welcome, man. It's too easy, and it's nothing without people like you. April 3rd, near Big Cedar, Oklahoma. The area of the Washita Mountains I camped at was particularly wet, like the Pacific Northwest, but half as thick. It rained off and on for the 2 days straight. There was also a lot of wind because I was camped towards the top of a peak. It started to rain after about 30 minutes of being in my sleeping bag, which put me right to sleep. At 3-ish a.m., I was awoken abruptly and threw up in my tent with no reasoning. That's weird. And I'm talking abruptly, unlike any time in my life prior. And next, I heard what I could only describe as 3 tree knocks and a double breath of some sort. Almost like a whistle, but deeper, and not as ear-piercing. I can't recreate it myself. It happened about 150 yards down the hill behind me. 30 seconds after the first one, I hear the same 3 knocks and breathe-like sound. Only it's to my right this time and closer. And right after, I heard a third triple knock and a double breath. This time it's to my left and within 100 yards. Whatever these damn things were, they were surrounding me. At this moment, I realize I'm 20 miles away from the nearest town, and at least a 2-mile hike through the mountains to my car, in an area I've never been to prior to this trip. With no firearm, just a medium-sized buck knife. Realizing I had one option at this point, I started praying. Now, I'm not particularly religious, but I knew what to do. The next thing I know, I hear the knocking again, only this time one is 20 yards up the hill in front of me, and the others are only 10 yards or so on either side of me. I heard 0 footsteps or noises up to this point. And this is where things get a little weird. Whatever was making these knocking noises walked in front of my tent and stood there. That son of a bee must have been 10 feet tall with 4-foot wide shoulders. When walking up, it sounded like it must have been 800 pounds. Whenever it stood there, the rain and wind stopped, almost as if someone had turned the switch off. After standing there for what felt like 30 minutes, but in reality was probably like 30 seconds, this creature vanished out of thin air, just simply gone. Then I heard the other 2 run off for a couple of seconds. Next thing I know, it's 7 a.m. and I'm waking up to the birds chirping. I didn't remember falling asleep after, just waking up the next morning. When I got out of the tent, nothing seemed off. Only thing I noticed was 3 rocks missing out of the rock ring. I packed my stuff and got the hell out of there. I noticed on the drive out of the mountains in the morning, I hadn't seen any wildlife the 2 days I was there. Well, anyways, that's the reason I don't camp alone in the woods anymore. Keep up the good work, Nicholas. There you go, you guys. Take from it what you will or leave it, but it takes a brave person to come forward with seeing that go down, right? Do I believe him? Yep. I believe him. Crazy. This next email is titled Experience. Hello, Steve. I'm an avid listener and love your storytelling abilities. I listened to one of your stories where the guy saw a Sasquatch in Victory, Vermont. I also live in Vermont, and the experiences I had are in a small border town called Vermont in the southeast corner. Sorry, called Vernon in the southeast corner. New Hampshire to the east and Massachusetts to the south. Here's my story. It was rifle season in Vermont. I was taking my 13-year-old nephew hunting. It was his first or second time sitting in a blind alone. I believe the year was 2013. Anyway, his blind was roughly 200 yards from mine. It was early and very dark, somewhere around 5 a.m. First light was roughly an hour away. And we were walking on a snowmobile trail, and my nephew's blind was on our left and up the side of the mountain about 75 to 100 yards. He left the trail and headed up to his spot. I continued down the trail for another couple hundred yards. My blind was similarly located on the left and up the steep mountainside. And as I turned and left the clear trail, I heard a very loud and long howl that was not like anything I've ever heard. I froze in my tracks and listened in complete shock and awe. I felt no fear or even concern. What? The howl/scream lasted for roughly 10 seconds. It wound up in crescendo to a high pitch and then a long, slow wind down and ended with an incredibly low guttural double grunt. The lung capacity and vocal ability blew my mind. Nevertheless, I continued to my blind. Once there, I moved a few sticks and twigs and settled in. The howl was on a loop in my mind, and I was trying to rationalize what I had heard. The topography was like a giant bowl. Below me, roughly 800 to 1,000 yards through the trees, were some pasture fields and a gravel pit. Beyond those fields, farms and houses, and then the Connecticut River, and New Hampshire behind, and another mountain. Any loud noise like a truck exhaust brake or car horn could be easily heard, even coming from New Hampshire. I was rationalizing the sound as coming from a bull, and as a crow flies, the closest pasture was maybe 800 yards straight down the snowmobile, and that was roughly where the sound seemed to come from. Roughly 10 minutes had passed, and it happened again. It sounded to me like a perfect duplicate. It gave me the goosebumps. This time I listened intently, and my first thought was, no bull sounds like that. The sound didn't happen again. We stayed most of the day. My nephew had called me on his walkie after the second howl, and he was freaked out a bit. I told him not to worry about it. It's just a Sasquatch, no big deal. Excuse me. I was between him and whatever it was. We decided to keep on hunting, and though we never saw a deer or anything else, we stayed put until lunch. Now, the rest of the story is a compilation of strange events that by themselves probably wouldn't impress, but as a whole, I find very compelling. Fast forward about 4 years. My father, brother-in-law, and myself purchased a 30-acre parcel of land, a half a mile as the crow flies from where I was hunting that day. That summer, I bought a portable sawmill and set it up on the new land. I would cut trees and mill the lumber day in and day out. My dog was always with me and loved roaming around or just hanging out. And one day, I'd been sawing up some hemlock boards and noticed the dog was not around. I shut the mill down and started calling him, and I found him hiding under my truck. That surprised me. He had never been afraid before. But from that day on, he would not leave the cab of my truck unless I forced him, which I seldom did. Something had scared him. I do not know what. That's pretty crazy. Now I'm trying to picture my dog doing that. That would freak me out. That same summer, I camped up there with a buddy, Scott. I was asleep in my tent and was awoken by deep breathing and some low grunting noises. My back was against the side of the tent, and as I lay there listening, whatever was outside the tent began rubbing against my back. I was sleeping on a double air mattress, so my back was a little over 2 feet from the ground. My buddy had a young pit bull named Jersey with him, and I thought that she was the culprit. Scott's tent was 20 feet from mine, and by chance he had gotten up to relieve himself. He unzipped the door flap, so I said something to the effect of, "Hey, Jersey's out here rubbing against my back." Scott replied that Jersey was in his tent and had not been out of it. At that point, I also got up and exited my tent. I never heard anything walk away, and it was 4 a.m. and dark. I shone my flashlight around, but I saw nothing. I concluded that it must have been a black bear and went back to bed. 30 to 45 minutes later, I was woken again. Something had hit a tree about 40 yards behind me and uphill from my tent. The sound was clearly wood hitting wood. It was as loud as a shotgun. Scott heard it, and we discussed it for a couple of minutes, but neither exited our tents. I was awake now and just lying in my tent when, right at first light, a rock was hurled from where the tree knock had occurred. I heard it clearly crashing through the trees and landed with a thud, followed by the sound of the rock rolling through the leaf litter. Judging from the sound of the crashing branches and the thud, I guessed the rock to be this soccer ball sized. Shit. At this point, I rushed out of the tent and scanned the area. Seeing nothing at all, I began yelling stupid shit at whatever was messing with us. I looked all around, but was unable to locate the rock. And since that day, I've had strange things happen. For that entire summer, every time I drove up the old dirt road, there would be a tree or multiple trees laying across the road. No stump. The trees were not large, always completely dead and laying directly across the road. It was obvious someone or something was deliberately dragging them there. My father had rocks thrown at him for 20 minutes while hanging posted signs around the perimeter. They were small golf ball sized and all landed at his feet, or a few feet away. He saw a few of them flying in like they'd been lobbed, underhand. He finally yelled at it, thinking it was me playing a joke, and it stopped. My father's 80 years old. I would not throw rocks at him. I'm not saying this is a Sasquatch. I've not seen one, nor do I want to. Seeing one would likely be a deal breaker for me. I go to my land with no fear. I want to keep it that way. If I saw one, I think that would change, and I would not enjoy the land anymore. My brother-in-law spends more time on the land than me. I told him of my experiences, and he brushes them off. He's never told me he had any weird experiences, and I rarely bring it up. I sold my sawmill 2 years ago, and nothing strange has happened since. Make of that what you will. Feel free to use my name. Okay, man. Appreciate that email. Robert Klass. Robert, I wonder if anything's happened since you emailed. I wonder. Or if you've even brought up the topic to your brother-in-law. You should. Run it by him. See if he might crack something open that he's put away and wants to forget. You know? Welcome to the club. You know what it was. This next email is titled Target Buck, quote, Steve, end quote. Hello, Steve. I'm an avid outdoorsman and have spent thousands of hours in the backcountry of British Columbia. Originally, I worked with forestry spacing, cut blocks, and tree planting when I was in my 20s. Now I just enjoy the outdoors with my kids, camping, fishing, and exploring. Sasquatch has always intrigued my interest. However, I've never seen tracks or caught any visuals. The first eye-opener of the being was from a story about a few mountain bikers at Big White near Kelowna. We used to sit around the fire and tell stories to help pass the time, and this is one of them. I'll tell you briefly what happened. There were 3 guys riding trails and had decided to take a break at the bottom of a run. The first to see the Sasquatch was the one guy facing the other 2 guys. Excuse me. He started to go into full panic attack and pointed as he started to come unglued. The other 2 guys turned around to witness this being, let out a loud scream and run up the mountain. They had eyes on it for a couple of minutes, and it had easily climbed over a 1,500 foot of vertical. The one guy who had the panic attack was extremely shaken and hid out in his house with the blinds closed for days. Oh, wow. A harmless individual who I'm guessing had been shaken for the rest of his life. This story gave me a chill down my spine. It also was a little harder to fall asleep in my tent that night. Tell me all about it. As for myself, I've had a couple of odd experiences as a solo hunter. My 6th sense works good, and I can also read people quite easily. I can see you are a good, honest, and go out of your way to help a stranger type of person. This must help you in your daily bush outings. We all know animals have the ability to sense your energy. I have a fond love for animals, and I'm the type of person where if there's a dog in a room full of strangers, he will lay down beside me. I feel this helps me to show these beings I mean no harm to them. Anyways, being in my 40s now, I've experienced that somewhat intense feeling of being watched. When it happens, I keep it simple and leave the area. One instance I was creeping down a skidder trail that was grown in on both sides. I felt somewhat normal and just had the heightened sense I get while I'm in the timber. And I got to this point in the trail where I could no longer get any further. Large trees stacked oddly across the trail with steep banks on both sides. The stack of trees was not man-made, and I felt it was done intentionally to keep people from passing. Shortly after I turned around, I could hear an animal. I stopped to rest and have a listen. I never saw anything. I just heard branches snapping, and what I came to the conclusion was a cow-elk type of sound. The noise and commotion was more than what an elk would sound like. It was like two really bad hunters snapping branches to make a fire and testing out a man-made call. And at the time, I was in the Cascades around Chilliwack Lake, and I didn't think there was any elk known to be in those parts. I didn't feel threatened or fearful at the time, just that it was time to leave. I almost felt like I was being followed back to my truck. When I got back, I was happy. I was happy to my truck and not happy to... Sorry. When I got back, I was happy to my truck and not happy to see I had a flat. Still feeling eyes on me, I changed that tire in record time as I was losing daylight quickly. Yeah, no doubt. Another experience I had was when I was scouting a new zone. I'd been hiking for a couple of kilometers and finally got to the spot I wanted to check out. The timber was big, with lots of fresh water coming from a fair-sized creek. The only thing that was missing was any sign of blacktail. I didn't feel threatened, but I did feel it was time to leave. After only being in the area a short time, I felt uneasy. And on my way out, I heard what I can only explain as a deep exhale with a deep grumbling growl. It was about 20 to 30 yards uphill, and it gave me a shot of adrenaline. The first I thought it was a large grizzly, until the sound and the bass level deepened. As I tried to put together what it could have been, but I felt stumped. I didn't feel any panic or fear, I just couldn't figure out what the noise was. You know the sound of a jet that can sometimes rumble when it enters a valley? It was like that, but it was about 4 seconds long, and I didn't hear the jet afterwards. I was definitely far enough away from any people or machines. Feeling bewildered, I continued to head out of the area and back to my truck. The only other way I can explain the rumble is to compare it to a small push-type packer. When these machines are stopped and shut down, they give off a deep rumble that you can feel in your feet. No idea what it was, but I know what it wasn't. I stole that quote from you. I will continue hunting and enjoying the woods with my family. I feel no fear when I enter the woods, but I'm definitely a believer that they are the Nephilims explained the Bible. Before I hit the woods for the day, I will pray for strength, courage, and guidance as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Everyone has a faith position, it just varies in strength. My advice, I'd like to pass, if it's read on your channel, is just to stay calm and keep your poop in a group. Easier said than done, right? Like you've said, excuse me, so many times, if they wanted to kill you, they wouldn't try warning you to leave. Enjoy the forest and your passion. Don't quit doing what you love, and just pay attention to the sixth sense, or what I refer to as the Holy Spirit. If you believe that we are just here to live and die, you'll be surprised when your time is up. And P.S., as for the subject of the email, I've used some of your knowledge from the Blacktail app. I found an amazing area and wanted to show my thanks and name the target buck for this year, Steve. I found a great shed from last year, both sides, and I'm pumped about that area. I'm hoping that the term, if there's a shed, he's probably not dead, comes into play. All right, man. There we go. Another one, another club member. Enter the club without asking. You don't even have to pay dues. You know, Chilliwack Lake, that place has been on fire with sightings for probably forever. And that is the lake. I don't know if you guys remember this one. I don't know why I always remember this one. There's a guy fishing, and he camped at the far end on the left. And I know where that spot is on a point in the sand. And he said this thing came out of the bush and was standing by his truck. And it had one of its arms were hanging limp. Like it was all gibbled up. And it was pissed. And I I forget exactly what happened. Did it start beating on his, ripping his camp apart, or chucking stuff out in the water towards him? But either way, and then a couple other vehicles started to come up the lake, and then the thing took off, and he didn't want to go to shore. Also had a military guy, a Canadian military guy at Chilliwack Lake, and he had a terrifying encounter with one there. Lots at Chilliwack Lake. You know, if you guys have ever been out there, it's pretty rugged. Lots goes on. But anyway, I think I'm going to go get a big meal in my tummy and go to bed early as usual and get up in the morning and see what I can pull off. I gotta get home. Sarah's just said to me, just shoot the first legal buck you see. She goes, it doesn't have to be a monster. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, if I see a nice big mature buck tomorrow, he'll be coming home. We need that meat. But anyway, let's hope it's not a blizzard tomorrow and I can maybe do some videoing outside and show you guys what I'm seeing. We'll see. Hope everybody's doing great out there. Share my story at howtohunt.com. And I'm not sure if it's still on or not, but Sarah had that sale on her store. You can check that out. And I think I should probably be able to make it back here tomorrow. We'll see. Actually, hold on a second. I got to share this with anybody who might be interested. Do you remember that great big bull moose I had on my trail camera a little while ago? The biggest one? Well, this is him. I got my eyes on him today. Check this out.
Oh.